Now I'm going to spotlight Ralph and Lital. Let's see. There we go. And I'm going to ask everyone else to turn off their video if you don't mind. And we're going to get started in just a moment. All right, Shavua Tov, everyone. Ralph and Lital, you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Gadvach, Shavua Tov, everyone. And it's wonderful to be able to spend a Sunday morning in conversation with Lital and Ralph Crombie, who are longstanding members of the Bayt and wonderful members of the Thornhill Jewish community. And I've always looked up to Ralph because he's much taller than I am, but also because he represents to me, every time I see him, he gives me a very, very warm feeling of someone who's so dedicated to his Yiddishkeit and to his family and to his community. And so I know the Crombies primarily through Ralph, because I see him every Shabbos when we don't have COVID. And Lital, I know you mostly from what your friends tell me about you and also from your beautiful children. Let me make sure I have it right. Avigail, Gavriel, Atara, Shana, and Little Yaakov. Did I get everyone?
You got everyone.
Okay, great. So you're the first in a series that I hope to be able to develop over the summer called The People of the Bayt Who Have Really Interesting Stories. And that's not to say that if we don't interview someone from the Bayt that they're not interesting or they don't have an interesting story. Someone actually suggested that to me, that implies that I find some people to be uninteresting, but that's not the case. I just find some people to have stories that are perhaps a little different from the convention. And so we want to be able to share with people things that are inspiring about some members of our community that we may see all the time, but we don't realize that they have so much to share with us and to inspire us with. And so that's what you and Ralph and Lital represent. And that's why I wanted to have a little dialogue with you, really sort of to ask you some things about yourselves. So the first thing I'm going to ask you is tell us about your journey. Tell us about how you got here and how you got to Orthodox Judaism over the course of several years, please.
So my wife will go first.
So I was born in Eretz Israel and raised in Toronto. I grew up in a traditional Sephardic home where in my early teens, my family became more Torah observant. And as I entered young adulthood, late teens, I became more interested and started attending various classes within the Jewish community. And that led to, exploring the Orthodox way of life and Torah Judaism, leading to a Torah observant life. I think it was a natural transition whereby my parents really laid a solid foundation coming from a very traditional home. I think it was a natural transition to get to the point where I became a Torah observant Jew.
And you were how old when that transition took place?
I think that was in my early teens. My older brother became involved with Hillel House at U of T, and that kind of was a springboard to introducing more Torah observant practices in the home. But we were always quite a traditional family. And I think it was an amazing foundation that my parents laid for us in order to be able to grow in that direction.
So you were already within the, let's say, the Orthodox community before you met Ralph.
Yes, I wasn't completely Torah observant, completely Orthodox, but I was learning. I was involved with Aish Torah, so it was something that that was my direction.
Right. It was a process. Yeah.
Process.
All right. And Ralph, tell us about your journey.
So pretty much like my wife, I'm from a family of four, born in Jamaica, Montego Bay, Jamaica. My mother came here in the 70s for when we were, my sister and I, my sister is younger than me, so there's two of us. So all the kids she could have had, she wanted more, but she couldn't. Shem gave her two kids, boy and a girl, my sister Diane and I. My aunt came here from Jamaica back in the 1960s. Like every other sister wanted to help their family or their sister. They asked my mother, she asked my mother if she wanted to come to Canada, and my mother had a good job in Jamaica back then. She came here. Eventually, they did the paperwork. She came here. She left my sister and I, very small. My father had a seasonal job, so we go to school, come back. We had to cook for ourselves. We had to wash our own clothes. We had to iron. We had to do everything for ourselves. My grandmother was there to help us, but we learned to be very independent at an early age.
Why did your mom take a job in Canada? Was it a better financial opportunity?
For a better life. It was an opportunity for her. She could have gone to the States as well, but she decided to come to Canada after doing her research, because we had relatives in the States too back then who would gladly take her. Glad she did. A beautiful country, wonderful place. So I came here 6 months in my teens. I came here 6 months before my parents, before my father and my sister, actually. I lived with my uncle, who was a police officer in Toronto from 1964. He grew up in England, went to Chicago, came to Canada in 1964, where he joined the police service. I was very close with him. He passed away a while ago, but I was very close with him. Stayed at his place for years until my parents were able to buy a house. Went to school like everybody else. My sister, I went to college after high school, and my sister ended up going to university. She went to college and then university. And then after she finished in nursing. Then she got a job in the States as a nurse, where she never looked back, never came back. She's doing very well there. Actually, she just texted me now. She want to talk to me, but anyways, so yeah, my parents worked very hard. My mother was a nanny. She worked for a lot of Jewish families. As I mentioned in my when I spoke at my son's bar mitzvah, I spoke about my mother's experience. Some of them were pleasant, some of them were not. But I just want to point out one thing, and it's that ever since I've been in the Jewish community, I've been asked, how did I find the transition from being a non-Jew to totally coming to the community and getting this far in the Jewish community. And the answer is that in Jamaica, Jamaicans are much more different from Black Americans in that Jamaicans have a high level of spirituality. And that spirituality comes from the 5 books of Moshe Rabbeinu. They also have the New Testament, which they believe in, which for some people it's controversial, some it's not. But they wholly and solely believe in the Old Testament in its entirety. Case in point, my parents and my grandparents, my grandmothers, totally 100%. Going to church back then as a kid, I knew all the Tehillim by heart. So when I read it now in Hebrew, I understand exactly what I'm saying because we have to recite it on Sunday afternoon. We have to recite them. quotes and stuff from the Bible was not new to me when I came here. On Sundays, we would prepare everything on Saturday. On Sundays, we did nothing. It's just a different day. That's all. On Sundays, it was forbidden to do anything in my little community where I grew up. It was about 500-600 people. And everybody worked, and then they went to church on Sunday. That was the way it was back then. So my journey into Judaism is that when I came to Canada, my mother was very involved in the church. My father was, but not so much so. He believed 100% in the Bible, but wasn't, here or there. As the years went by, when I came here, my mother said to me, I want you to go to church. She actually bought me a suit. I remember we went to Yorkdale. She bought me a leather jacket because I told her that was the thing back then in the 80s, on a nice leather jacket. She spent what she didn't have to give me that jacket. It was $450 at the time. Okay.
Wow.
And she told me, I'm buying you this jacket because I want you to come with me to church. I went once, and I remember sitting with her, and I don't know if she told the pastor something or what it was, but he came down and he put his hand on my head and he started, and it freaked me out. And I said, I'm not, I said to myself, I'm not going back. I didn't tell her because, I didn't want to make her feel bad. So I ended up finding excuses over the years. And then eventually, when I got hired with the Toronto police, that was 27 years ago.
This is before you met Lital.
Yes, I got hired by the Toronto police about 27 years ago. Prior to that, I used to work out at a gym with a gentleman who actually he works at the Steeles West Memorial Chapel now. I met him when I was through his girlfriend back then when he was working at Yorkdale, and we started working out at the gym together. I was already, but then we met up because I didn't know who he was, and then we were talking, and he was a secular Israeli. Said to me, I said to him, eventually after about 6 or 7 months, I said to him, I'm interested in Judaism. There's something. I grew up religious as a Christian, background, but there's always, I'm interested. So I asked him if there was any bookstore or anything that sells, Jewish books and stuff like that. He said, yeah, there's one in Eglinton and Young. So I ended up going there. I remember one Rosh Hashanah, I actually put my suit on and went to that synagogue on Eglinton and Allen Road. And when I went there, of course, everybody was looking at me, asking me, oh, Shana Tova, are you Jewish? I said, no, I'm just interested in, in seeing what's going on. And I made my rounds, and men and women were sitting together, stuff like that. I didn't know, okay, that's not how it was supposed to be, but it was quite an experience. And then over the years, I read books. I opened the Torah, the Chumash. I looked into it, and it says Genesis, in the beginning God did. I said, whoa, this is what I grew up with. Started reading the Torah, reading the Bible, the Chumash, and there's a lot of stuff that I was familiar with in there. Eventually, this gentleman, he actually discouraged. He says, why you interested in Judaism? It's just, you don't have to worry about it. So eventually we talk. We talk a lot about Christianity, Judaism while we were working out. We actually went for coffee, or sit and talk, and he discouraged me for the most part. He said, Ralphie, you don't need that. You don't need it. And eventually I asked him one day, I said, is there a learning center somewhere where I can go and, just see how you know, how it is. And he said, yeah. He said, there's a place on Clark, west of Bathurst, called Asia Torah. I said, it's a learning center. It's a very good place if you want to get good resources and stuff. So months and months went by, and then I decided, you know what, I'm just going to go there. I know they're there on Saturdays, so I said, I'll go on a Saturday and see what it was like. I end up going, and 1997, I remember January of 1997 was a very cold day. I ended up going there, and I remember parking the gate. There was a gate there, so I parked at the arena center. I walked in, and while I was walking in, there's Mr. Shapiro with his son, walking with his son, who I came to know later on, and he actually says to me, "Good Shabbos," and I said, I didn't know what to say, and he said to me, "You say Good Shabbos." So we walked in. He says, "Coming to the show, to the synagogue?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "This is my first time." He says, "Welcome." So I walked in with him, and he asked me if I'm married. I said, "No." And he said, "Okay, you don't need a tallis, you just need a siddur." And he gave me the siddur. I opened the siddur, and a lot of the things in the siddur I was familiar with as well. For example, Tehillim, they turned to Tehillim. I was saying it in English. I knew it by heart. I was standing there. And I kept going. I kept going on Saturdays until they had classes. Some of the rabbis, a lot of them have long gone. Some of them are in you know, made aliyah and stuff like that. And I started attending the classes. And about 3 weeks into going there, the president of the shul at the time came up and asked me. He says, "I've been seeing you coming here. Are you Jewish?" I said, "No, I'm just interested in what I see and you know, interested in Judaism." And he says, "Oh, okay, welcome." He says, "Have you met the rabbi?" I said, "No." So he introduced me to Rabbi Mendel, and of course, Rabbi Mendel actually, you know, he asked me, he's very straightforward. He says, "Yeah, I noticed you've been coming to the synagogue. What's up?" And I said, "You know, I'm interested in Judaism, and came here, and it was warmly received, and you know, I'm just here to learn and to see what's going on." He says, "Okay, you want to come and see me so we can sit down and have a talk?" And I said, "Yeah." And we actually scheduled. I went and I saw Rabbi Mendel. The first thing he asked me, he goes, "Why Judaism? Why are you interested in Judaism?" So I explained to him the best way I could, and he says, "Okay." He says, "You know, he says, listen." He says, "As far as I'm concerned, you're just another human being to me. The color doesn't matter to me. I don't really care about it." He says, "The reality is," he says, "you know, unfortunately, there are, you know, you're a person of darker skin, and you know, you have it hard as it is already." And he says, "You know, it's a double whammy for you. It's going to be a double problem. You're black and you're Jewish. Oh, you know, it's something you want to think about." And I said, "Yeah, I thought about it. You know, being in Canada, I was only faced once with direct racism. I was at Canadian Tire, gentleman standing behind me, and he turned around, and there was about 5 people in the line. There's 2 people ahead of me. I was in the middle, and 2 people was behind me. He was directly behind me, and he says to me, "Why don't you go back to Africa?" And I turned around and I said to him, I was about 22 at the time. He said to me, and I turned around, I said, "You talking to me?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "You don't look," I said, "Are you a native Indian?" And he said, "No." He said, "No, I'm not. What do you mean?" And I said, "Well, obviously you haven't studied your history. Okay? You haven't studied your history." And the people behind me, they were like, "Oh, I can't believe he's talking like this." And the cashier said, "Sir, you shouldn't do that." And that was the end of that. So I walked out and I said, "Study your history, then you will think twice before you talk." Okay? So I walked out. That was, I would say, the only blatant racism that I can think about right now that I was faced with. So
I want to get back to your process of
Yeah.
of conversion. Yeah. And then I want to get back to the racism.
Rabbi Mendel said, okay. Rabbi Mendel said, okay, we can, well, we're happy to have you here, but you can be, you love the Jews and you respect the Jews. We don't mind having you here, but you don't have to go through, you don't have to do this. So anyways, as months and months went by, I kept going because, I kept going. And eventually we had another meeting and he says, oh, you're still here. Da, da, da. Okay, fine. He told me about some books that I should buy and start reading. Some of them I read already, some of them I didn't. I bought them, I read them, and when the whole thing went with time. It's time, and perseverance.
How long was the whole process, Ralph, from beginning to end? You started in 1997 at Aish Torah?
Yes. So the whole thing took me 4.5 years. If that's the point, it took me 4.5 years to convert.
Yeah, that's quite an investment in time. It took a tremendous amount of perseverance on your behalf.
Yes. I remember coming out of the Bayt dean, the secretary at the time. I remember coming out of his office a couple of times and cried. I cried on my way home, and I persevered. And eventually, they saw that I was genuine. I was serious. I met a lot of friends in the Jewish community. Some of them are still friends with, even though some people I don't see a lot. But I've met a lot of people, religious and non-religious alike, over the years, from everywhere, from all walks of life.
And how many years are you and Lital married now?
We've been married for 15 years.
Beautiful, beautiful. All right. So I want to move on a little bit and move on into the questioning, because I know that there are some people who are going to have their own questions as well, and I want to leave time for that. First of all, I want to ask you about your respective professions. Lital, you're in the healthcare industry. Ralph, you're a police constable, and you have a beautiful family of small children. How are you balancing your careers and at the same time allowing for your quality of life with your family? How are you managing that?
So I think for most parents, I think it's a challenge for working parents. We have Kanai Nahara, we have 5 kids, and I think we do have a good balance where we have the right support in place. Our kids are amazing. They're wonderful, great kids, where one of the most important things with that balance, and obviously everything is Torah based for us, is Shabbos. It's a time to reset and really reconnect with each other, with our children, and we have that time to spend together and talk about whatever it is we need to talk about. In terms of the day-to-day, I have the opportunity to have a home office, which is great, where I can manage my time around the children's schedule. Ralph's schedule is a bit different than mine, but for the most part, we're present, we're at home, and we do have a good support system where we're able to have a balance. I mean, for everyone, I think it's a challenge, but we do have a good balance. What do you think, Ralph? What are your thoughts?
Okay, so I have had nothing but blessing from Hashem, for my family, support from my immediate family, my father, my mother, everybody else. Nothing but tremendous support. I have to say Hashem has blessed us with 5 beautiful kids, beautiful home. I have a wonderful job, amazing job. My wife has an amazing business. We we have done so much. We try so much to help the community in whatever way we can, even though it's low key. We don't like to tell people what we do or who we help or what, you know, kind of help we provide, we give to people.
Has anyone asked you to take care of a speeding ticket for them?
Oh yeah, I've been asked that. But I think there's a question about policing, the balance between being a police and being a religious Jew. I think that's a question coming up.
Yes, yes.
So I'll just touch on that. So many years ago, when I started the process, I actually got a letter from the Canadian Jewish Congress and from Rabbi Mendel from Eshet Torah, which I present to my superiors in Toronto at the time, and they started giving me a hard time. So at that point, I said to myself, you know, it's time to start looking elsewhere. And so I actually came to York Region, York Regional Police, presented them the same letter and letters, and you know, my immediate supervisor at the time was not very happy about it. He put a letter of his own and sent it to headquarters to a deputy chief at the time, was Deputy Chief Kelly.
Let me just clarify, Ralph. They weren't happy about your being an observant Jew. Is that what you're saying?
No. He wasn't happy about they weren't happy about the fact that I was requesting a certain time off. Because policing is a 24/7 job, which is very understandable. It's a 24/7 job. There's no time. It's constant. There has to be always constant coverage, right?
So you were requesting 24/6 instead of 24/7.
Yes, I was. Yes, exactly. I was requesting Shabbos sundown, Friday sundown to Saturday sundown off, and I was quickly called to headquarters, and I figure, okay, you know, I'm in trouble now. I went to headquarters, and the deputy chief sat me down, and he says, you know, Ralph, you're a very good officer. We have no issues. We have no issues with Ralph. So he says, tell me about. He saw, I read the letter. It's good. The letter is very respectful, but letters are very respectful. But tell me. So I explained to him. So he says, okay. He says, just to let you know, I did my research already. And he said, you're not Jewish yet, right? And I said, no. So he said, technically you can work. When he said that, I said, whoa. I said, yes, you're right. But I said, I'm asking you to help me, sir. It's a process. And he says, okay. He says, okay, you know what? I truly understand where you know what you're doing and you know what you're requesting of us. And he said to me, I'm going to help you. He says, I'm going to try my best to help you, but I also need your help as well. So basically, I was on a platoon. We have 4 platoons, A, B, C, and D platoon. I was an A platoon at the time. And about 2 weeks later, I got a call from the staff sergeant saying, listen, they want you to go to C platoon. And he said to me, you can volunteer to go or you're going to be voluntold. And I said, okay, I guess I have to go, or I'm bound to have to obey. He says, okay. So 3 weeks later, or I think it was 2 weeks later, one of the sergeant from the platoon that I was about to go to, and C platoon, called me up. I was walking by, he called me, Ralph, come here for a second. He was the acting staff sergeant at the time. He took me into the office and he says, first of all, welcome to my platoon. And he says, what do you need? What's your, what? So I told him, I explained to him, he goes, that's not a problem. So he says, that's not a problem. We're going to help you. And then the other sergeant who is walking, I said, Ralph, we'll help you out. Don't worry about it. And these guys, to me, they're unbelievable. I've had nothing but good things to say about them and the platoon at large that I work with.
So Ralph, let me ask you, do you think that's unique to York Regional Police, or do you think that's probably the case in most police departments?
I was called a success story. Over the years, I've had guys, I've had to change shift, I would work on their Christmas holidays. I would change shift with guys on different platoons. I would work on their Christmas holidays or their New Year's, and they would come in for me and work for 4 hours, especially in the winter. If I have a day shift, if it's nighttime in the winter time, Shabbos finishes early, so I can go to work on time. I was able to do that for quite a few years.
So what I want to ask you, just as a follow-up to that idea, how this being a police constable, a police officer, is not something that is widely embraced within the Orthodox Jewish community. We do have another member of our shul who is a police officer as well, but it's not something that we would say is a common run-of-the-mill kind of thing, like being an accountant or a lawyer or something like that. Let me fast forward 10 years from now. One of your beautiful children comes to you and says, Abba, Ima, I want to join the police force. What is your response to them?
Okay, so if in the U.S. right now, the way things are right now in the U.S., if my kids would come to me and say, I want to be a police officer, I would say no.
And the reason being?
Because I feel that the respect and the respect for most people have lost the respect for police services in certain parts in the USA. I'm not saying all of the US is like that, but here in Canada, the executive team and the policing community at large have worked very hard to earn and keep the respect of the community. And in every organization, there is good and bad people. I know for sure our new chief, which we just had, he came up through the ranks and he came up and he's now the chief. He started his position about 2 months ago, or a little bit less. And York Regional Police is a very progressive service, just as Toronto. We get the same training, we go to the same police college. So the Ontario Provincial Police and all the municipal forces throughout Ontario attended the same police college. We get pretty much the same training. Annual requalification is the same standards. And these guys, they meet and discuss, how they can make changes and how they can, continue to serve the all communities. Just bear in mind that every police officer, every sworn police officer or police officer who have affirmed of sworn to be impartial. The police service is a total impartial organization. We have been asked to do things that sometimes we have to say no to because it we don't want to be seen as benefiting one organization and not the other. So we have to remain impartial.
So the argument you're making, Ralph, as far as the pride that you have in Canada here, especially York Region, of being a police officer. So you would feel comfortable if one of your children came to you and said, Dad, Abba, I admire you. I admire what you do for the community. I want to do that as well. You would feel comfortable encouraging them to do that?
Yes. And bear in mind that two of my cousins, well, one has recently left and went to the Mississauga Fire Department after 7 years. My uncle's kids, he has a son and a daughter. And when my cousin Rita, 22 years ago, decided that she wanted to be a police officer, he told her no. And I used to be very close to him, so we spoke a lot about things, about racism, about things within the police service. And he told them no, but they insist, and they became police officers. In the end, he was proud of them, and he told me that, you know what, you guys have a voice now. You guys can go very far. You didn't have it the way we did. And my other cousin as well, who joined with my uncle back in 1964, he says, you guys have it good, and things have changed. When it comes to, you're talking about the Jewish community, Jewish parents who would say to their kids, I'd rather you do something else. That's not only exclusive to the Jewish community. There are other minority communities that I can tell you. There's many communities where the parents, first thing they would say is no to their kids. I want you to do something else. I worked in recruiting for 7 years. I was a recruiter, active recruiter. I did a lot of files. I did hundreds of interviews over the years I was there. I see people from all different walks of life and different personalities come in. Um, I would say right now, the way things are, to any, whether you're a Bobby, a Zaidi, or a Abba, Ima, or Daddy or Mommy, if your kids decide, policing is something that I want to do, I wouldn't say no at this time.
Okay, Lital, the wife of a police officer, one of your children comes to you and says, if it's good enough for Abba, it should be good enough for me. What do you say, Mom?
So I think there's huge challenges in terms of the logistics part of the job, where scheduling, Shabbos, Chagim, there's days where we can't work. So incorporating that into the schedule, I think that would be a huge challenge. It's a very honorable and honorable profession. It's a career, but I think that would be a huge challenge now for a Torah observant Jew to be able to find that balance with the schedule.
But could you not make that argument for someone who wants to go into medicine also? There are so many demands that require you to work out a schedule with your employer?
Possibly. I think so. I think but the logistics are a little bit different, where if you're in a platoon, I mean, Ralph knows more about the scheduling part of it, but if you're in a platoon and you have that shift work, it could pose a huge challenge and be a barrier between going into policing as a career and choosing a different career path.
And what about the risk involved in being a police officer? Does that concern you? Do you have any gray hairs because of Ralph's job as a police officer?
So I have a lot of confidence in Ralph's experience and his decision-making process when he's out there policing. And in terms of our community, it's a fairly safe community that we live in. I can't say that it's on my mind on a day-to-day. With the experience that he has, I feel very confident and yeah, I think so, Ralph. No?
Yeah. Rabbi, just so you know, there are a lot of Jewish police officers. I remember many years ago, the Canadian Jewish Congress put on a Jewish officers get together sort of thing and talk about their experiences and stuff like that. And I was there. When I showed up, there was about 400 officers who were all Jewish. A lot of women, a lot of guys of different ranks. Some were from the RCMP, OPP, a lot of municipal forces there. And that was an eye opener for me. There was
that's certainly, we have a lot to be proud of in that so many Jews are working for these kinds of positions that defend the public. But certainly Orthodox Jews in these kinds of positions is much more uncommon. Would you agree?
I was the only one wearing a yarmulke there at the time.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so I want to move on and talk about what's a little bit of the craziness that you touched on, Ralph, that's going on just south of the border. I'm an American, and so I follow the U.S. news a lot, as I'm sure many people do. Some of the craziness has spilled over to the north with, Black Lives Matter protests and things like that. Even people here in Canada are calling for a defunding of the police. And so what I would ask you as an officer of the police and a man of color, how do you react to this whole movement, and how do you balance that? And what is the correct response when people talk about this idea of the police being oppressive to minorities and ethnicities? How do you respond to that?
Okay, so since this whole thing started, I mean, the Black Lives Matter movements have been around for years. I think it started somewhat in the States. There are people here in our community, not in the Jewish community, but in Canada, in Toronto, in the Toronto area and other places who represent that movement. Personally, I haven't spoken to any of them. From a police perspective, even since this whole thing started with with the killing of the gentleman, um, I haven't had anything negative from anybody out there on the street. I'm out there on the street. I stop cars, I stop people, I talk to people of all different colors. Never had any issues with anyone, anything negative. For the most part, people say thank you for what you do. Thank you guys. We support you guys. I've received phone calls from people of all different colors saying, I hope you're safe. I hope, and it's all in the way how you treat people. It's all in the way how you know we're all human beings and we should all be respected. And again, from the York Regional Police perspective, um, officers are told when they graduate, you should treat people with respect. You should have compassion, humanity for others, regardless of their criminal record, regardless of all the stuff that's under the Charter of Rights and Freedom. You should respect that. You have to respect that. That's what you took the oath of office to do, and that's what you should continue to do. In my view, if you treat people with respect, they will, for 99.9%, they'll treat you back with respect. And you got to use your discretion when you're dealing with people. And the only way to understand that is you have to learn about other people. You have to understand where other people are coming from. Everybody has a different something to say. Everybody has a different path that they have chosen and they're taking in life. Some people, unfortunately, are run into hard times. You got to understand that.
This is something that is taught to us by our rabbis as well. In Pirkei Avos, it says, "Al tadin et charvercha ad shetagia limakomo." Don't judge your fellow human being until you've walked a mile in his moccasin, so to speak.
My uncle said to me when I joined the police service, he said to me, "I got to tell you something, and you should always take this with you." And he said, "You do not accuse anybody or arrest somebody for something they did not do." He told me that, and he says, if you do that, and if you do that, and that person comes out and they see you, they might take revenge. And they might not take revenge on you, but they'll take revenge on somebody else who's wearing the same uniform as you. That's exactly what he told me. And he says, if that person did it, he said, I don't care how bad. He says, listen, I've had years of experience. He says, if that person did it, if you arrest the person because they actually did it, even if they go to jail and come back, they'll still respect you.
So you're saying, Ralph, that you haven't seen a rise in disrespect towards the police here in our region?
No, I haven't seen it. I listen to the talk radio and stuff like that, and of course, people have had, I've seen on video where people have had, people have vented, and I mean, they have a voice. I haven't lived those people's lives. I've heard, people of color who trust me and have spoken to me and said, this is what the police did to me, and some of them have said, I'm not saying I'm an innocent person. I surrendered. I wasn't resisting or anything, and they roughed me up. I got beaten up by and I got, they tell me about various things that have happened to them. I know people who have moved from the GTA to other places, and they told me, the police is not very nice. They're not very friendly, and I don't understand why. A police officer, regardless of who it is, cannot be, nice to people. I mean, the job itself, you can become very cynical, and if you don't have the proper leadership, you can become very cynical. You can become it's us and them sort of thing, and you treat everybody as if they're everybody becomes suspicious if you're not careful to have that balance. Okay. And this is what I think, police services should be imparting to officers, on a regular basis, is that, just remember that you have a job to do, but it should be done a certain way. And, I'm not saying they should go around and give everybody the benefit of the doubt because you have a job to do. There's sometimes you have to make arrests. You have to apprehend people. You have to, do what, according to law, according to what you're sworn to do. But for the most part, I think most people are good. In the GTA, for example, which is where I can't speak for anywhere else, but I know for the most part, people have been, I don't know south of us in Toronto how, maybe there's officers who will tell you that they have been, approached and being treated disrespectfully from certain people who are upset and who have had a long history of, negative interaction or negative, things with the police.
Okay, so let me,
I just
I
don't
want
think,
to, if it's okay with you, I want to get to my last question, which is probably the most difficult question that I want to present to you for our audience. And you should feel as open to express yourselves. And if you feel uncomfortable, because we spoke a lot about my concern that the both of you should feel comfortable in this conversation. And it's very important. I think people who know you and people who get to know you see two amazing people, and they don't see what color you are. But my question really is, within the larger Orthodox Jewish community, are we a colorblind community? And I want Lital actually to respond first, and then I want Ralph to respond, because Lital, your whole family is a family of color. These are your children. And this question really goes into issues of acceptance by their peers, your kids. It goes into issues of, you're not yet there yet, because your oldest is only 14, I think. But eventually, hopefully in just a few years from now, you're going to be in the Parsha of Shidduchim. And the question that you have to sort of ask yourselves is, are my daughters as beautiful as they are? Are they going to be, are they going to have an easy as much of a time finding a shidduch as another Orthodox Jewish girl who went to Beis Yaakov? So these are things that I'd like you to reflect upon and be as open or not open as you feel comfortable with, please, if you wouldn't mind.
I think it's a really good question, and I'm comfortable discussing it. I can speak for the experience that we've had with our kids. Our girls attend Beis Yaakov, and our boys attend Eitz Chaim. So we're in two different schools, and we've had very positive experience for all of our children. And it's not, I don't like to use the word tolerate. They've been embraced, really. And in terms of socially, everything has been really wonderful. Teachers are supportive, the school is supportive, friends and family are supportive. We've had a really, really positive, and we continue to have a very positive experience. I can say I'm proud to be part of this community, and it's been a very good experience for us. And in terms of shidduchim, I think every parent, thinks about that stage when they get to it, or even before. Who are my kids going to marry? Are they going to be accepted? Are they not going to be accepted? For various reasons, whether it's color or this or that. For us, we have a strong emunah that we know we're going to do our part, and Hashem will definitely take care of us and our children, and we believe that. I think as Jews, it's important. We have a very firm emunah that Hashem will take care of that. We're giving the foundation to our children. We're instilling in them positive confidence, self-awareness, self-esteem, and this is what's going to carry them throughout their life with the Torah foundation. And I think worrying about the what ifs is not going to help us. We prefer to help build in their character and help them grow rather than focus on the worrying part. It'd be silly to say that we haven't thought about these types of things, but it's not something that we focus on. We focus on helping our kids grow, giving them the proper education, the foundation, the support, the guidance, And in terms of the Jewish community and the schools, they've been wonderful and supportive with our children. You know, it's just, it's really amazing. And I think Ralph probably shares the same view as I do, but I'll let him.
Okay, so Rabbi, I'll quickly start off with a story. There was and it's a true story. So in Israel, there was a rabbi whose daughter came home and says, Abba, I found someone, and I'm really like this person, and I'm, I wanna date this person, maybe marriage. Okay, who is it? You're expecting your kids one day to come home and tell you that when they're of marriageable age. Okay, who is it? He's black, Ethiopian. And there was a pause, and of course there was a reaction, and it was a reaction of, oh no, can you find somebody else? And the rabbi actually said, I didn't know that I have such bias until it actually happened to me. And then I had to stop and think about it. Like, wow, really, I have this bias. So, after thinking about that and saying all that, people's natural reaction, and I can tell you right now that I have some friends in this community who are tremendous, who they're unbelievable, wouldn't even think about something like that. They would be and obviously they would be the first one to say something. How is the reaction of the parents if it comes to that stage where my kids started in the shidduch world and stuff like that, looking for shidduchim, they would ask me. That's the first thing they would ask me, because they're more. It's not that they're more concerned about about how the kids would be received and how they would, because it does exist. We all have biases. And the thing is, some of us don't know the biases, including myself, until we're actually faced with it. Okay. It's a normal human reaction. It shouldn't be that way, but unfortunately it is that way. So I know very well for myself that, sure, the first thing that would come, even they're smart kids, they're smart in school, they come from a good home, we try our best to give them, to raise them, Jewish. The first thing we tell them is that they're Jewish first, and they understand that and they know that.
Something happened to your audio, guys. If you could just check your audio for a second.
Can you hear us?
We can hear you only very faintly now. I'm not sure why. Let me unmute you again. Okay. Can you have to unmute yourselves now. There you go.
Can you hear us now?
It's very faint. For some reason, I'm not sure why, but no.
Let me just try and increase the volume here. Our volume is all the way up.
It's all the way up.
There you go. Now we have you back.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry, Ralph.
So I'm just saying that some of it is a subconscious biasness. Some of it, I don't want to get into it because it's going to take hours and hours. Are there people with biasness in the community? Yes, there are.
Have you encountered it yourself personally, either for yourself or your children?
I've had few situations, but I would say situations. But by and large, people have been good. Now the question is, what if our kids one day decided to marry somebody in the community who doesn't look like them? The question is, would the parents of those kids accept it? Some would, some won't. I can't speak to that, and I can't cross that bridge until I get there, right?
Well, I can tell you it's in my own family. I was once speaking to, I have to protect the identity of people in my family, but I was speaking I was speaking to an older family member, and we were speaking about issues of race. This is a number of years ago. And I said that I have absolutely no issue for one of my children marrying a person of color, whether they're Black or Hispanic or any other color, because skin color is totally irrelevant to me. And that person was mortified that I had even, that I thought that was even possible. And so there's definitely, at least my experience, there's definitely in some pockets of the Jewish community, we're a very tribalistic community by our nature, by our history, by some of our attitudes and our teachings. And so it's a very, very delicate balance. I mean, I guess what I would tell anyone in your position is that anyone that doesn't see past your skin color doesn't deserve to marry one of your children. Because if they knew how special your kids were, they would be kicking themselves for disqualifying them. I mean, that's the attitude I think you should have.
I understand, Rabbi, and thank you for that. I remember many years ago when I actually finished I finished the process of the conversion, and I was approached all the time. I have somebody for you. I have somebody that looks like you. I have somebody. I remember going to a home for lunch, Shabbos lunch, and I was introduced to a Jewish girl who practiced Baha'i religion. I didn't even know what Baha'i was. And when I asked her, she said to me, I practice Baha'i. I said, what's Baha'i? I'd never heard of that, right? And that was that for that. I end up leaving. I benched and I left because I just said, thank you very much. And I left because, for me, that was very, okay, that's fine. Everybody's free to do whatever they want to do. That's no issues at all. But, for people who knew that I was in the process of conversion and becoming Jewish, for them to somebody who they know is of a different faith, even though that person is Jewish, I thought was very insulting.
Right.
Very insulting.
So,
I look past it. I look past it, and it was upsetting at the time, but
All right. So I wanted to leave just a few minutes for questions because we're almost coming up in an hour. I know that whenever I speak with you, Ralph, you always have a lot to say. And that's why I apologize for having cut you off. But I know that we're up against the clock, and I wanted to leave just a few minutes for questions. So one question that came up on the chat is, how did your family, Ralph, feel about your becoming Jewish? And I guess what I would also ask you, Lital, was there any concern in your family when you brought Ralph home to meet your parents, or you told them who you were dating?
So when I started the process, and I actually told my parents, my father says to me, is there any Black Jews? And I said, lots. I said, there is a lot. I said, in Israel, more so than here. And then my mother said, you're not doing anything that's bad, but why why? She questioned it. I sat and I spoke to her. She was fine. My mother is, for the most part, a Zionist. She believed wholly and solely in, what Hashem told Abraham Avinu, that I'm going to bless those who bless you, I'll curse those who curse you, and stuff like that. My mother says that all the time. And she's supportive. She loves Jews. She's supportive of Judaism. She loves Jerusalem with her heart and soul. I haven't had any issues from any of my family. For the most part, most of my cousins were supportive of me. And that's.
I remember meeting many of your family members at your son's bar mitzvah. A beautiful family, really very supportive. Was what I also got out of that encounter. Yeah. So Lital, share us about your family.
I'd like to kind of bring us to present day, where I have a very close family. I have two brothers. My parents live in Eretz Israel, and my family is very proud of seeing us where we are today with our 5 children, Rafael and I. And I think it's something that they're quite proud of, to see what we've created over the years with Hashem's help, and where we are today. It's been a long journey, a long process, but I could say that my family is very proud of us. very much a part of our lives. And our extended family in Eretz Israel, who have, come to Canada for visits and have stayed by us, is also extremely proud of Ralph and I, and what we've our journey and where we are today.
And also, yes, there was some resistance, and everybody's afraid of the unknown. It's not something that is usual in the community. It's something that looks different and feels different and seems different at the time. But Baruch Hashem, my mother-in-law, I have a very good with my father-in-law, my mother-in-law, amazing with, especially my mother-in-law, very, very close with her.
Great. Okay, another question. This is for Ralph. Do you think, I'm just reading this from the chat, do you think that things would be different if you or another person with similar interests would be starting your process? I believe she's referring to your conversion process. If you were starting it today, instead of, let's say, 25 or 20 something years ago, what do you think would be different for someone today trying to enter into the community?
Well, I think it's the process. The process was hard, and it was, and there's a reason for that. And now I'm on the other side, looking at the other side where I came from. I can honestly say that it's a good process. It's not for everybody. Judaism, we don't proselytize, and Judaism is not for everybody. And you have to, it's something that you have to really want, and you have to persevere. There's a lot to learn, there's a lot to know, and there's a lot that you have to commit to in order to join the Jewish community or to join the Jewish people. It's back then I had the energy. I was younger. I had the energy. I had the motivation. It was, for me, it was something that I committed to, and I said, it doesn't matter how long it takes, I'm going to be doing it. And Baruch Hashem, I persevered, and I did it. Now, if I had to do it now, I probably would have. Looking back, I probably would have done the same thing, because this is what I wanted. This is the path that I choose for my life.
Right, but I think what part of the question is that a lot has changed in the Orthodox community in 25 years. Eish Torah doesn't have the same kind of center of intake for someone like yourself that it used to, right? So it might present greater challenges for people who, let's say, are in their 20s, like you were 25 years ago, because of the changes in the Jewish community.
I actually thought about that, Rabbi. I don't know what's out there now, or if there's an organ. Eish Torah was not. It's not a center where it tried to convert people. That's not what they're there for. They're there to help people who are in the Baal Tshuvas to come back to Torah and stuff like that. Do they reject, by and large, people who have decided to convert and stuff? Yes, they do. They do exactly what they're supposed to do. I've seen people after me who have come in, people who look like me, who have come in, who have started and have fallen by the way. They're no longer there, from what I know. And they have spoken to me, and I told them it's not a huggy, come on in, stuff like that. It's not a proselytizing, religion or way of life. It's you don't have to do this. I was actually being the Bayt dean for the Bayt himself. I said, you don't have to commit. You can come here. You can if you want to come and pray with us, it's totally your choice. But you don't have to do this. It's not easy. It's not an easy thing. And today, I would have done the same thing if I had to do it all over again.
Great. All right. So you have a whole cheering section apparently in the comments. One person writes, "We love you guys. You're a remarkable couple and family. We can all learn so much from your beautiful middos. So happy to have you in our lives. Thank you for sharing your incredible journey with all of us." So I'm gonna leave you with the final word. So Lital and Ralph, if there's a message that you wanted to get out about, not so much about yourselves, but about trying to be accepting of people who are different or look different or present differently, what's the message you want to leave people with, and why it really, in general, why you even agreed to have this conversation publicly with me? What message would you like to leave with all of you, with your whole community?
So,
You go ahead. Yeah.
so the message I want to leave is, I understand that everybody has biases and everybody has, you know, certain, a certain way of life that they want to maintain, and they want to, you know, what's the word? The Jews are Jews. At the end of the day, Jews are Jews. It shouldn't be based on color. A Jew is committed regardless of color or regardless of background, who is committed to Torah, committed to, you know, living up to the, you know, doing all the mitzvot and as much as they can, and is living up to you know, to the community's expectations, or to Torah expectations, I should say, should not be viewed or looked on a different way because of their skin or because of, you know, where they may come from. I love every Jew, and I said it from the heart, meaningfully. Yeah, sometimes some of them are intolerable. Sometimes some of them, and for the most part, most people are good. Most Jews are good, to me, I should say. But we're all human beings, and sometimes we have certain, we come to a point where, you know, certain people are just, you know, you rather not talk to this person, but that doesn't mean I hate them. I hate these people. For the most part, I'm saying that people have to be more open-minded. I know they want to protect, you know, certain way. They may have friends or family member who, if one of their kids should come out and say, you know what, I'm dating this person is Jewish, here are their accomplishments, da da da, I like this person, and because it's a different skin, their family or friends may act a certain way or say certain things. Who wants that? Some people don't have the energy. They just don't want to deal with it. So, you know, the easiest way out is to say, you know what, just find somebody who looks like you. Then we won't have that problem, right? Does it happen? Yes, it happens. It happens. That's how people think. But, you know, we all got to look into ourselves and, you know, just think about, you know, if things are changing. A lot of kids today, especially my kids' age group, they don't see that. They don't look at that. They don't look at skin color. They don't look at stuff like that. Things are changing.
Baruch Hashem.
And we have to adjust. We have to adjust with the times, within the context of the Torah, within you know, the Torah values. We have to adjust with the times.
And I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you short, Ralph, again, but I just want to let Lital get the last word in, please.
So I think one of the messages, you know, people do have biases. It's important to look at why due to fear, you know, what's causing this bias, and what does the Torah have to say about these kinds of topics? It's important to, you know, as a Torah observant Jewish family, it's important for us to base our beliefs and values on what the Torah teaches us. So I think that's an important message. And the other thing is treat each other with kindness and respect. That goes a long way. You know, say little and do much is something that I'm very much, that's kind of my motto. And really treating others with kindness and respect. There are people that may have not encountered, let's say, a family unit like ours. And just having a kind word to the person, treating that person with respect can make them feel more comfortable, and they become more familiar with something like this. And I think really our Torah has so much to offer and so much to teach us about how to live our day-to-day life, how to treat others. And we just need to tap into it and really use that.
All we need to do is live a life of Torah, and then everything else disappears, all of our prejudices and biases.
I hope.
Yes, and that's really, it's a beautiful message. And I think what I've seen in all of the comments so far is that people are blown away by your positivity, your ability to see the beauty in life and the beauty in the Jewish community. And that's an inspiring message that I hope everyone is left with. And if anyone is positively influenced, I certainly am, by the way that you live your lives and the message that you get across to everyone. And that's why I think you are so beloved in our community, including by myself. And I just want to thank you both. Thank you for sharing of your lives with us. And you really made a Kiddush Hashem. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi.
And continue to have tremendous success, especially with the kids and in everything you do in your life.
Thank you. Shabbat everyone.
And with that, I'm going to wish everyone a great day. This interview will be available on Facebook Live at the Bayt's Facebook page, so you'll be able to share it with some friends. Have a great day, everyone, and thanks for being with us. Talk to you soon.
Be well.
Thank you.